Welcome into Discern. Today is Tuesday, December 7th. I'm Ross, and we're actually joined today by Mark Turman, who's filling in for Jim Denison. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Ross, would be glad to. I'm Mark Turman, the Executive Director of Denison Forum, recently named, actually. I've known Dr. Denison for 35 years and have had a chance to work in a limited capacity here at Denison Forum for the past 2 years, and now for the last 2 months have been fully engaged. And after serving for 35 years as a pastor of local churches, 4 churches, the last of which I served for 25 years, and just honored to get to be able to be a part of this ministry and to get to help in this way as well.
Mark, thanks for that intro. I think we're going to be having you on that end when Jim is out, and we're excited to look to you for various topics. And so welcome to the Discern team, as it were. So to pivot to today's story, the sad news, the passing of Bob Dole on Sunday, we're going to focus on that today and kind of just talk through his impact. This is from USA Today. Former Senator Bob Dole, a Kansas lawmaker and decorated World War II veteran who had never won the presidency but left an indelible mark on the nation's capital and history, died Sunday. He was 98. Dole died in his sleep, according to an announcement from the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. For all his accomplishments, Dole wanted to be remembered for his service, particularly as a soldier who lost the use of his right arm on the battlefield in Italy. He described to Fox News in May 2013 how he wanted to be remembered, the veteran who gave his most for his country. So, Mark, as we reflect on the life of Bob Dole, what stands out to you?
Well, I just reflected upon hearing of his passing, how he was really a hero of my parents. He was a little bit older than what both of my mom and dad would have been, but I can remember all of my growing up in adult years that he was this recurring figure that my parents paid attention to, that he had this incredible story of heroism coming out of the greatest generation in World War II, having survived that, and carried, obviously, very visibly a wound that changed his life. I read recently that he had desired, before going into the Army, that he wanted to be a doctor, and then felt called and compelled to go into military service during the Second World War. But just his story being kind of a quintessential American story of someone who saw a need and felt compelled to become a part of the answer, and just that overwhelming desire to serve, whether it had been as a doctor and then as a soldier and ultimately as a statesman. That just really captures our imagination as kind of the best of what America is all about, I think.
Yeah, as a politician, he obviously had his long career, and presidential bid was always in play. I mean, I remember growing up, he was just always part of the conversation. And having never reached that goal, some people might go, oh, well, he didn't succeed in that. But certainly where he did serve, I mean, he had a tremendous impact on those around him.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, he's a very vivid illustration of what James Davison Hunter wrote about in his book, To Change the World, about this idea of rising to your level of greatest influence and then living faithfully there. And we could all see how he would desire to move on from the state house in Kansas up to the House of Representatives and into the Senate. And there's probably almost every senator that's ever been in that house that had ambitions or thoughts or considerations of, should I go on beyond here to a different role? Should I consider possibly a presidential bid? And certainly Dole did that 3 different times, and was the last of that generation to be a major party candidate. And even though he didn't become president, he didn't let that embitter him. He just kept on looking for more ways to serve. Even if it wasn't going to be as president, the passion and the heart to be a servant at whatever level would be available to him was always there, and just love the fact that he would not be embittered or resentful that he didn't get to be in that or some other role.
Yeah, the government roles often have, tension, there's debate, there's conflict. It's certainly something that you sign up for when you become a politician. But can you speak to some of how he would resolve conflict, or even just how he would be kind even in areas where he may disagree with others.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're seeing in terms of the tributes that are coming out about him right now, is not just simply his desire and passion to serve wherever and however he could, from being a soldier on to being in Congress and in politics, but the demeanor and the spirit by which he did that, I think speaks volumes to where we are today and to what in some ways we've lost. Just this idea of statesman really, I think, speaks to it well. You can see a clip on the internet of him talking about how bipartisan compromise is not a sin. It's actually the way our country is set up to operate, that we have created an environment where people can have differing opinions, different views, and we've set it up so that our congressmen can debate and discuss those things and then do what is, particularly American. They can vote on it and make decisions that they feel are for the best of the country. He just really illustrates for me what I think the Bible talks about when it talks about growing into maturity in our spiritual lives, our relationship with Christ, and being able to speak the truth in love. Something very important to us here at the Denison Forum and within the conversations of Discern, that it is important that we speak truth and that we understand truth and we try to communicate it well, but the spirit in which we do that is also critically important. And I think he just is a great illustration of that.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that part of his character. I hope that we can emulate that on Discern as we kind of explore topics that a lot of times we're going to have, again, a biblical reference to what's true. But certainly the way we talk about it, the way we love through even that communication is really important. And certainly we want to be thoughtful, when we discuss topics, to follow that good example. And I also think about, again, as the next generation comes into politics, what examples do they have on what it looks like to serve as a statesman, as you said? And certainly Bob Dole is one that we could point to for them to study.
Yeah, and we've heard Dr. Denison say that it's his belief that God's calling more Christians into public service than are answering the call right now, and hopefully that tide will change. But I really think that Senator Dole is an expression of what we see even in characters like Daniel in the Old Testament, where Daniel was carried off from his homeland, but God put him in a position of enormous influence. And what I've always remembered about Daniel, even from my earliest days as a pastor, is that he wasn't just trying to be right, but he was trying to be right the right way, which really becomes a living out of what the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 13, where it says if we do everything right, but we don't have love in the midst of what we're doing, then it really doesn't count. And understanding that dynamic, that you can be truthful and you can be right, but if you don't have love, your truth gets basically canceled or becomes something that falls on deaf ears. And if you don't have a proper understanding of love, then that's going to be ineffective as well. And I think understanding and balancing and growing in those two things as Christians, no matter what our areas of influence and service are critically important.
Yeah, as we close, I think that we can look to this example of Bob Dole in his profession. There's obviously tons of other examples that you could point to that show how to love others well, even sometimes when we disagree, or but ultimately when we have truth, we want to communicate that in love. And the greatest example we have of that is Jesus himself, obviously. And so, again, as we get into this Christmas season, it's just a reminder of how amazing it is that we had the perfect form of love. Like Jesus showed us exactly how to do this, that we can copy and emulate. So thank you, Mark, for this time. And certainly our prayers go out to the family of Bob Dole, and he will be missed. And we will be back here for more talk this week with you, Mark, here on Discern.